You would never flake on a client and you would never ghost a friend. But how often do you cancel on yourself? Really look and see if you can answer that truthfully. My name is Josselyne Herman-Saccio, and for more than 35 years, I've been doing transformative work with high performers, entrepreneurs, founders, executives, and I have seen this pattern destroy more potential than any market crash or business failure I have ever seen. So today, we are diving into one of the most overlooked but most important distinction that separates people who perform consistently at the top of their game from those who fizzle out on the reliability of their word to themselves. So let me paint this picture. You set a time to write the proposal, the book. You block a space for a workout. You promise yourself that you're going to start that book or that business, and then something comes up, a text, a client email, a distraction, some way that you justify not doing what you set out to do. And instead of protecting that promise the way you would for a meeting with someone else, you abandon it. And you do it silently, like with a shrug. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it later. Now, here is what research shows us. Overcommitment is not a time management problem. It's a self-respect problem. And every successful entrepreneur I work with has this same hidden pattern. They're impeccable with their team. They're flawless with their clients. But when it comes down to their own promises, they break them without a second thought. Here is the kicker. Every time you cancel on yourself, you chip away at your own power. Why? Because power lives in word, in integrity, and their relationship with their word, or yours with your word, is foundational. When your relationship with your word is weak, your actions become reactive. You start doubting yourself, second guessing. You get trapped in this loop of hesitation or even guilt. This isn't about being perfect. I'm not saying be a robot. It's about being powerful. And that power comes from being someone that you can count on, no matter who or what is happening. The self-betrayal epidemic among high achievers, let's start with that. We're going to start with what's really happening here. Okay, research shows that when high performers put themselves off with statements like, I'll exercise tomorrow, or there's no time now, when they break promises to themselves, something they would never do if the promise was to somebody else, that's when it starts to erode their power. And here's what's fascinating. This isn't happening because you're lazy or undisciplined. You've built, seven-figure companies, many of you. You manage teams. You deliver for clients consistently. So what's the difference between those promises and the ones that you make to yourself? Let me tell you about one of my clients. Her name is Sarah. She's the CEO of a growing company. She manages a team of 30 people and has never missed a client deadline, ever, in 5 years. But when it came to her own health, she'd schedule a workout at 6 a.m. or 5:45 or whatever, and she was already convinced by 5:30 that she was going to be responding to emails at that time and that was more important. She'd open her inbox and, be totally distracted by something that's coming at her versus what she created in her workout schedule. She would never, ever, ever dream of canceling an investor meeting, but her morning workout, gone at the first email that came in her inbox. Her evening walk to decompress, sacrificed for just one more call. Her commitment to read for 30 minutes before bed, abandoned because she needed to review tomorrow's agenda. And here's what she didn't realize. Every time that happened, she was disrespecting and dishonoring herself, undermining her self-worth. Research confirms this. Participants who failed the high and specific goal showed a decrease in effect, self-esteem, and motivation compared to participants who attained their goals. Your brain learns that your word doesn't matter. You're training your brain at every move, at least not when it's given to yourself. And that creates a dangerous cycle where you start to believe you can't trust yourself and follow through on anything really important. Here's the hidden power leak that's sabotaging your success. Here's where this gets really interesting, okay? Every time you cancel on yourself, you're not just missing a workout or skipping that proposal. You're literally bleeding power. You are leaking power. When your word to yourself is weak, your actions become reactive. You start operating from a place of internal chaos rather than centered power and creation. And this isn't just personal, it bleeds into everything. If you just think about it, when you can't trust your own word, you hesitate in business decisions. You second guess your instincts. You operate from a place of self doubt rather than confidence. Research shows that if you continue to tell yourself that story over a long enough period of time, it becomes a belief system, which becomes a lid on your life and what you're out to accomplish. Your mind gets wired to focus on that belief, finding evidence for it that you can't trust yourself, and then you don't follow through. So that belief system filters all the incoming process of information, and it reinforces the belief that, you're not going to be able to follow through on what you say and keep your word. I see this with entrepreneurs every day, all the time. They'll make brilliant strategic decisions for their business, but when it comes to their personal commitments, their health, their relationships, their family, their own personal development, they operate like completely different people, not decisive, not confident. One client told me that, he could negotiate $1 million deals, but he couldn't stick to drinking 8 glasses of water a day. I mean, that is not a hydration problem. That is a word issue. And here's what's really costly. When you operate from this place of broken self-trust or broken word, you're not showing up as the leader that you could be. You're not making decisions from your full power. You are literally making them from a place of internal conflict and doubt. Weak word, weak, period. So step one, clean up your calendar. Stop the silent lies. How do we begin to reclaim the power? Start with something that seems simple, but it actually is profound. Your calendar. If it's in there, keep it, do it. And if you're not going to keep it, take it out. Stop lying to yourself with false promises on your calendar. It seems harmless, but it quietly teaches your brain that your word can be broken, that you don't really mean it. So if you don't mean it, then your goals are just fantasies. So what most people don't understand is that every time you see something on your calendar and actually do it, you're building evidence that you're someone who keeps your word, that your word is law in the universe. Every time you ignore it, you're building the opposite case. So your calendar wants to reflect your actual commitments, not your fantasy life. So go through your calendar right now. What's in there that you're not going to do? Delete it. If what's in there matters, but you keep skipping it, either commit to it fully or remove it entirely. Stop lying. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest. When you clean up your calendar, you're not just organizing your time, you're rebuilding your relationship with your own word. I had a client that had write a book on her calendar every Tuesday from 9 to 11 for 6 months. And every Tuesday she'd look at it, feel guilty, and move on to the next thing, do something else. Finally, I asked her, are you going to write that book or not? And she said, well, I want to, but I never seem to have the energy on Tuesdays. So we moved it to Thursday mornings when she felt the most creative and energetic, and reduced it to 1 hour instead of 2. Suddenly, she started actually showing up and doing what she said, not because the task changed, but because the commitment became real instead of this fantasy, this aspirational, this should thing. Step 2 is the morning word ritual. These are daily recommitments. Every morning, you want to look at your day and recommit. Just like someone, in recovery commits to just today, one day at a time, recommit to being your word for today. Speak it out loud. Say, Tuesday, I give my word to myself to do what I said, to do what I designed. This sounds simple, but it's potent. Your nervous system starts to associate you with consistency. There's power in the spoken word. It engages a different neural pathway than just thinking. This borrows actually from the most successful behavioral change model that we actually know about. Alcoholics Anonymous doesn't ask people to never drink again. They ask them to not drink today, one day at a time. And that's manageable. It's doable. One day. You could do anything for one day. So each day, keep your word to yourself. You're not just accomplishing tasks. You're becoming someone that can be trusted by yourself and others. That identity shift shifts everything. Say X, do X. One of my clients, Marcus, was struggling with this exact issue. And he would set ambitious goals, break them within days, and then spend 2 weeks in guilt and self-criticism. When he started this morning ritual, this word ritual, something shifted. He told me it's not about the specific tasks anymore. It's about who I'm becoming. When I look at my calendar every day and recommit, I'm not just planning my day. I'm choosing to be someone of the word, not their feelings. And here's what's beautiful about this. This approach is so great because it's not about perfection, because some days you're going to keep every commitment and some days you won't. But the ritual of recommitting each morning rebuilds your relationship with your own word one day at a time. Step 3, reframe self-promises as sacred vows. Would you cheat on your partner? Lie to your child? Of course not. So why do we act like it's acceptable to break promises to ourselves? That vision you have for life, that commitment to your health, your voice being seen or heard, your mission being fulfilled, treat it like a sacred vow. Now, that's a little woo-woo, but that's what it looks like to master something. The highest performers understand that self-respect isn't selfish. It's the foundation for everything else they build. So when you treat your self-promises with the same reverence that you'd give to a vow to somebody you love, everything alters. You stop making casual commitments. You stop overpromising. You start meaning what you say and having your word be law in the universe. Let me tell you about Sarah again, the CEO that I mentioned earlier. Once she started treating her wellness blocks with honor, as sacred as investor meetings, like she wouldn't reschedule an investor meeting. She's not going to reschedule her workout because of an email. She stopped rescheduling her workouts. She stopped getting distracted by what was coming at her, and she created what she called sacred boundaries around her self-commitments. Her morning routine became as non-negotiable as her in board meetings or her investor meetings. Her evening walk became as important as her client calls. And here's what happened. Not only did her energy soar, but her company's revenue also jumped 40%. That was not magic. That was integrity. That was word creating her world. When you are someone that you can count on, you show up differently in every area of your life. You make decisions from a place of power rather than chaos. You trust your instincts because you trust yourself. You trust your word. You lead from a place of centered strength rather than reactive urgency. So this whole world of word, this work, rebuilding your relationship to your own word, is exactly what I do with my clients, and the results speak for themselves. When leaders start treating their self-commitments as sacred, they don't just transform their personal lives, they transform their businesses, their revenue, their relationships, their well-being, and their impact and legacy on the world. So the next time you are tempted to cancel on yourself, stop and ask yourself, who do I become when I keep this promise versus cancel it? That's the muscle you're building. You know, we've talked about this hidden epidemic of self-betrayal among high performers and how every broken self-promise bleeds your power, and the 3-step system to reclaim that power in this episode: clean up your calendar, implement the morning word ritual, and treat self-promises as sacred vows. That is the 3-step ritual. But here's what I haven't told you yet. There is a specific way that high performers sabotage themselves, even when they're keeping their promises, and it's called the fulfillment gap. And it's why some people can be incredibly disciplined and still feel empty and unfulfilled despite their achievements and their metrics. So if you want to develop the ability to be fulfilled, the ability to fulfill your vision, the ability to live in the world of word, you should book a call with me and let's discuss how we can work together. The link is in my bio, and we can really look at whether or not being unmessable with is a pathway that would empower you to fulfill on everything you really want in your life. So keep watching the next video and you'll go even deeper into the world of how to fulfill on what really matters to you and be unmessable with no matter what life throws at you. Remember, this work is not just about personal discipline, it's about being unmessable with. When you can trust your own word, you become unstoppable in every area of your life. I'll see you in the next episode.